The numbers are almost too big to process. In a music industry obsessed with trends, virality, and constant reinvention, Bruno Mars has quietly done something few believed was still possible. He has turned consistency into dominance. And now, with 5 songs surpassing the staggering 3 billion stream mark on Spotify, fans aren't just impressed, they're stunned that it didn't happen overnight. There was no single viral moment, no sudden spike driven by controversy. Instead, this milestone feels like the culmination of years of precision, discipline, and an almost old-school commitment to timeless music. And in an era driven by speed, that might be the most shocking part of all. Bruno Mars has officially reached a rare streaming milestone that places him in a category few artists have ever touched. With 5 tracks each surpassing the 3 billion stream threshold, 4 of them solo records, he has reinforced his status as one of the most consistent hitmakers of the modern era. Songs like That's What I Like, Just the Way You Are, Locked Out of Heaven, and When I Was Your Man, alongside the global phenomenon Uptown Funk with Mark Ronson, continue to perform at a level that defies industry norms. This achievement arrives at a time when the music landscape is more fragmented than ever. New artists rise overnight through TikTok. Viral hits dominate charts for weeks, then disappear just as quickly. But Bruno Mars operates differently. His catalog doesn't just spike, it endures. And that endurance is now translating into historic streaming numbers. In recent months, renewed interest in Bruno Mars' discography has surged, fueled by algorithm-driven playlists, nostalgic listening trends, and a growing appreciation among younger audiences discovering his music for the first time. Industry analysts point to the cross-generational appeal of his sound, rooted in funk, R&B, pop, and soul, as a key factor behind this sustained success. He makes songs that don't age, said a senior music curator at Spotify in a recent interview. When you listen to Bruno Mars, you're not tied to a specific year or trend. His records feel just as relevant today as they did when they were released. Behind the scenes, that timeless quality is no accident. Bruno Mars, known for his meticulous approach to songwriting and production, has long prioritized craftsmanship over quantity. Collaborators frequently describe long studio sessions, endless revisions, and an almost obsessive attention to detail. A producer who has worked closely within his creative circle described the process bluntly: he doesn't leave the studio until it feels undeniable. Not good, undeniable. That's the difference. That philosophy has shaped a career defined not by volume, but by impact. While many artists release multiple albums within a short span, Bruno Mars has maintained a relatively selective discography. Yet nearly every release has produced global hits. It's a strategy that once seemed risky in the streaming era, but now looks visionary. The impact of these streaming milestones goes far beyond numbers. In the US, where the music industry often measures success by chart performance and cultural relevance, Bruno Mars has managed to achieve both, without relying heavily on controversy, public drama, or constant media exposure. Instead, his influence has been built through music that resonates across demographics. From weddings to radio stations, from TikTok edits to live performances, his songs have become embedded in everyday life. They are not just hits, they are cultural staples. Music critic and cultural analyst Jenna Brooks explains it this way: Bruno Mars doesn't just release songs. He releases moments. And those moments stick. They become part of people's memories. That emotional connection is perhaps the most powerful element behind his streaming dominance. While some artists capture attention, Bruno Mars captures feeling. His ballads tap into vulnerability. His up-tempo tracks deliver joy and nostalgia. And together, they create a catalog that listeners return to again and again. There is also a deeper narrative at play, one that adds complexity to this milestone. Bruno Mars' rise to global superstardom was not immediate. Early in his career, he worked behind the scenes as a songwriter, crafting hits for other artists before stepping into the spotlight himself. That foundation gave him a unique understanding of what makes a song resonate. He studied the game before he played it, said a veteran industry executive. That's why his instincts are so sharp. He knows what works, not just commercially, but emotionally. That understanding has allowed Bruno Mars to navigate an industry that has dramatically shifted over the past decade. As streaming replaced physical sales, and playlists replaced radio as the primary discovery tool, many established artists struggled to adapt. But Bruno Mars didn't just adapt, he thrived. His music fits seamlessly into multiple listening environments. It's playlist-friendly without feeling manufactured. It's radio-ready without sounding generic. And most importantly, it feels authentic in a way that listeners recognize instantly. The Milestone also places him in direct conversation with other streaming giants such as Ed Sheeran and The Weeknd, artists who have similarly achieved massive global reach through streaming platforms. But what sets Bruno Mars apart is the concentration of success within a relatively small catalog. While others rely on extensive discographies to accumulate billions of streams, Bruno Mars has achieved comparable numbers with fewer releases. It's a statistic that continues to surprise industry observers, and one that underscores the efficiency of his hit-making ability. Fans, meanwhile, have taken to social media to express their disbelief. Comments range from admiration to outright shock, with many pointing out that his songs never get old and still sound fresh years later. Others highlight the emotional impact of his ballads, which continue to resonate long after their initial release. One viral post summed up the sentiment perfectly: "We didn't realize it, but Bruno Mars has been running the game this whole time." That quiet dominance is perhaps the defining characteristic of his career. Unlike artists who dominate headlines through controversy or constant reinvention, Bruno Mars has built his legacy through consistency. He doesn't chase trends, he sets standards, and yet, despite the scale of his success, he remains something of an enigma. Public appearances are selective. Interviews are rare. And new releases are carefully timed. It's a strategy that keeps audiences wanting more, and ensures that every return feels like an event. Recent collaborations, including his work with paak as part of Silk Sonic, have only reinforced his versatility. The project paid homage to classic soul and R&B while introducing his sound to a new generation of listeners. It also demonstrated his ability to evolve without losing his core identity. "Bruno Mars understands legacy," said a Grammy-winning producer. "He's not just thinking about the next hit. He's thinking about how his music will sound 10, 20 years from now." That long-term vision is increasingly rare in an industry driven by short-term metrics. But as these streaming milestones prove, it's also incredibly effective. Looking ahead, the question is no longer whether Bruno Mars can produce another hit, it's how far his existing catalog can go. With streaming numbers continuing to climb and new audiences discovering his music daily, the ceiling appears higher than ever. There is also growing anticipation around his next solo project. While details remain scarce, insiders suggest that he has been working quietly behind the scenes, refining new material with the same meticulous approach that has defined his career. If history is any indication, the results could once again reshape the conversation. For now, though, this milestone stands as a powerful reminder of what sets Bruno Mars apart. In a fast-moving industry where attention is fleeting, he has built something lasting. Something resilient. Something that continues to grow even in the absence of constant output, and perhaps that's why fans are so stunned, because in a world where everything moves quickly, Bruno Mars has proven that greatness doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, it builds slowly. Quietly. Until one day, the numbers become impossible to ignore, and the impact becomes undeniable. As the streaming era continues to evolve, one thing is clear: Bruno Mars isn't just part of the conversation. He's redefining it.